Okay, so this week for the spreadsheet, we're going to go in and look at the new data that we got that will determine how many representatives each state gets. Okay, and so if you go into your spreadsheet, first thing we're going to do is we're going to define the state populations. We'll define a range, and that you'll see goes from B5 down to B54. Okay, so we're going to say data named range. And our named range, okay, we don't need this tip, add range. Named range would be state populations, okay, and we're going to have that be table. Oh, looks like what we should have done is maybe highlighted our thing first, because we'll cancel this and start over. So we're going to go from Wyoming all the way up. So click on this and try and go up. And so we're using the shift and the arrow key. And so we want to go from B5 down there. So we're going to add a range. And now we see it's B5 to 54, and we're going to call that state populations. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with representatives. Okay, so we do that with representatives, and we're going to add a range, and that's going to be state reps, okay, C5 to C54, and that's done. Okay, and so what you're going to do is you're going to create a scatter plot. So if we go in and we go over one, and we highlight these two columns, I'm going to do a scatter plot. Okay, and we don't want to do what I just did, which is go too far, so we come over and then we come back. Okay, so we've just got the populations and the number of representatives that they'll have. And so we say, let's insert a chart. So you want to insert a chart, and when you do, you'll have these various options, but we want to go down to scatter plot. And when we look at it, what do we get? Is it a linear function? So it looks pretty good, right? Looks pretty good as a function. And what we see here is, okay, if you look at what are these, right? So there's California, there's Texas, there's Florida, and I believe that's New York right there. Okay. You can see that. And I know California's came down one, and Texas went up two. So Texas is growing. California is not losing, but it's not growing very fast. It's so expensive to live there. Okay, so you know what we need next? So we need to do the slope and the intercept. Okay, so what you do for slope is you say equals slope, S-L-O-P-E, right? But then what we do is we say it equals the slope. But what do we want to do? We want to do the ranges, right? So we want to know the reps per population. So we're going to say state reps, so we want that top one, and then we say, and the other range is state populations, okay, with a small s, state populations. Okay, so let's see what we get for a slope. Okay, so we get a slope, and it's for you to think about what is the slope. So what exactly does that mean? And so another way we could have presented the data is we could have done it in millions, okay, and so we can take a look at that as well. So now let's do the intercept, so that equals the intercept equals the intercept, and it's the same thing. So we're going to do the intercept of the state reps, comma, the state populations. And we get an intercept at 0.08. And so you have to think about this a little bit. So why isn't the intercept 0? Well, and so it turns out that if you're a small state, you get more reps than you should. You get a rep even though you don't really deserve it. Okay, and we can go down and let's do a calculation here. So you see how many people we have. So we're going to say equals B55. Okay, we've got that 331 million. And we want to divide that by So say slash divided by C55. What's that going to give us? Okay. So that gives us that, in general, there are 760,000 people per representative. But if you go up now, so let's go up and let's sort this column. So let's sort our column of population. Okay, so we got to be careful. Right? So we want to actually sort everybody here. So we'll say we're going to sort state and number of senators. And we're going to sort all these. So instead of having them in alphabetical order, we'll go down here and we'll say, okay, we want to sort everybody here. And we have headers. So we go to data, sort range, and we say column has header. We're not going to sort on state, we're going to sort on population. Okay, so what you noticed is that, move this guy out of the way, I hope. What you noticed is that we have some states that really shouldn't get any representative. They're below the minimum level. So there's only a couple, so it's Wyoming and Vermont. They don't really reach the 700,000 level. Right? And you can see that you have to get up to over 1 million to get to 2. However, what we want to notice is let's make a little chart. Let's see if we can do this. So we're going to highlight. So a lot of times you might say you're kind of surprised by the politics of the United States. So we've got that level. And oops. Gotta be a little bit smarter how to do this. I think I have to use command function when I do this. And select that other one. So what I want to do is, don't want to do that, right? Is I want to select this guy, and then I hope if I hit command, I can select again, right? Oh, too stupid to do this apparently. So what I want to do is I want to select 2 regions, and it could be I have to, yeah, I'm too stupid to do this. So we have our senators, so I'm going to put in a senator, so we'll put in another named range. And so we'll put in this named range of senators, and our named range will cover table C5, so this is D5 colon D54. Okay. So there's D5 colon D54. And now what I want to see is can I insert a chart? Okay, so I'm not smart enough to do that. So data range, and we're going to say our data range is not A1 to B56. But let's see if we can use our named ranges. Okay, so we're going to try state populations and state. If I could spell populations and state and senators. Okay, so we try that and see if it buys that. Please enter a valid range. Okay, so if we go over to our data named ranges, we say we have state populations and state reps. So it really should allow us to do that. Should allow us to do that. And yeah. Okay, so I might make a separate video where I learn how to do this again. And so when you're having trouble with something like this, you can kind of improvise, and so the improvisation would be, well, let's just insert one left. Okay. So this is when you get desperate, right? You just say, well, I can't get what I want, so I'm going to put these 2 columns next to each other. It shouldn't be that hard, right? I could have hid the column, perhaps. But I know there's a way to do it. Okay, so we say, we're going to put this over here. All right. So we want to do this rather shocking display. So we say, okay, well, what about population and senators? Let's look at a scatter plot of that. Okay, so you look, and we're almost North Carolina, 10 million. So you can see we're in the top 10 in states, and Apple and Google are moving here. We're going to keep going. New York, Florida, So there's really those big four states. Okay, nobody else really very close. Okay, and here we go. So we say, all right, now we're going to try and insert our chart. So let's insert our chart, and we're going to do a chart, and we're going to do a scatter plot. And what do you notice when we do our scatter plot? Scatter chart. And we failed here for some reason. Why is it? Oh, there it is. Okay. And so what we see is that we have this line. It doesn't matter how big you are, you get 2. What if we swap it? So it seems like we should be able to swap it, right? So why did it choose that way? Okay. So, well, what we could say is we're going to force you to do it the other way. Okay. So instead of B5, B54, we say, comma, C5, colon C54, and hit enter. No data. Oh, life is so hard. B5, colon B54. Yeah, it doesn't want to do that. And so select data range. So this looks like a lot better way to do it, right? So we'll say B5, B54, C5, B5, colon B54, and then we'll add another range. Should have done this so you see you kind of can learn things as you struggle along here. Okay. And we'll say okay. And the x-axis we want to be B5 to B54. Alright, so let's roll with that. Okay, and we see it still doesn't want to do that. And we'll try, give it one last try. Insert chart. Okay, we've got our 2. Actually, let's even add those, and maybe it'll take them as labels. Okay, insert chart, insert chart. It's funny, you know, it sort of reliably always inserts a chart when you do this. X-axis, the range, so we'll change that range, and we want to change it, we want it to be the other way around. So you say, I'm going to copy this one and put it here, and copy this one, C4, colon C54. No, it's, yeah, C4, we want to include the, and we get the chart there. And that's not what we wanted. X-axis is that, so we're going to change the x-axis. And there we go. Finally, we got what we want. It shows you if you stick to it long enough. Okay. And so, but that one is completely wrong, right, because it's showing just the population to the population. So what we want to do is, just wants to do what it wants to do, doesn't it? So what we wanted to show is to get a line that has 2 on there. So is there a place, switch rows and columns? Doesn't do any good. All right. So we give up and try to find another